All right, welcome to this training on LifterLMS and Gutenberg. I'm Chris Badgett, joined with my business partner, Thomas Levy. And I'm just going to get my screen shared here. And we're going to get started. Excellent. So we are talking about LifterLMS and Gutenberg, which is a new editor for WordPress, which is rolling out in WordPress 5.0. And you're going to learn about what that new editor is, what it's all about. You're going to discover how LifterLMS is not just merely Gutenberg compatible, but we're embracing it and adding a lot of other benefits for the course creator, the website builder, specifically who are building WordPress LMS websites. So for this training, it's really important that you all ask lots of questions. We've got a Q&A feature here in Zoom. Also, there is the chat, and you'll be able to raise your hand and ask questions live at the end when we do the Q&A. If you want to do that, there's a little raise your hand feature in Zoom as well. And we're also going to be giving away one surprise bonus at the end of this presentation. So stick around at the end. We'll randomly draw from the people who are here at the end, and we've got a prize coming for one lucky winner. So this is being recorded. If you want to watch it again, you're going to get a replay video that'll get emailed to you. And this is also streaming into the LifterLMS Facebook group, which you can join. There's a link in the chat right now if you're not already in there, to join our community, which is a thriving community and conversation around LifterLMS and these types of projects. So if you're not in there yet, please join. So the format of how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to cover some quick high-level, reporter style stuff of what Gutenberg is and when it's coming out and why it's important and all that. But the majority of this presentation is going to be, I'm actually going to be sharing a live website that has Gutenberg and LifterLMS installed together and show you how they work together in its current form. So we've got a few quick slides here. Then we'll get into the live presentation, and then we're going to get into the Q&A with myself and Thomas here. So what is Gutenberg and WordPress 5.0? Like, what does this even mean? If you're new here, if you're inside the WordPress community, you've probably been hearing about this for a while, but if you're not really focused on WordPress and you're focused on growing your online course business and your membership site, you may not have even heard of it yet. So just to give you the high level of what it's all about, is Gutenberg is the major feature rolling out in WordPress 5.0, which is essentially a new editor for WordPress. If you can see my screen right now, you can see what Gutenberg looks like, and we'll demo this live. But this is very different from the visual editor, the TinyMC editor that's been the same with WordPress for a very long time, which those of you know, it just looks like kind of that editor tool that you use to write an email or publish a blog post. We recognize the familiar like bold, italics, center, all that kind of stuff. That's the old editor. Gutenberg is the new editor. That's the major new feature that's coming in WordPress 5.0. It's been in development for quite some time, and plugins and themes, it's important in the WordPress community for them to adapt to Gutenberg and move forward with WordPress 5.0. The goal of Gutenberg is to make building websites and doing custom layouts and really giving you a what you see is what you get kind of building experience, making that better. For people that have been using WordPress for a long time, it's going to be an adjustment. It's like that's why this is a 5.0. It's a major update. For people that happen to just come over to WordPress or just start in the WordPress LMS industry building their online course website after this rolls out, there won't even be an adjustment. They'll just walk in and start using this, and it'll be just even easier for them in that way. So who is behind all this stuff? So WordPress, the core software that we download or that's included in our hosting, um, Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the WordPress Foundation that's behind the open source WordPress software.
I don't know if foundation is really like the right
Or is it?
name, but yeah, it's the. I mean, Automatic owns WordPress, right? But
Mhm.
um, Gutenberg is rolling into the WordPress core. It's being primarily developed by WordPress core contributors. A lot of those work for Automatic, but some are just random community members.
Yeah, and this whole like open source software thing is one of the things that makes the WordPress as an option, self-hosted for a website or self-hosted LMS so powerful. Is there's this giant community of people who contribute to the core, work on the project, companies like LifterLMS that bring additional functionality to the to what you can do. So that's what it's all about. So this is an update. Who's behind this? WordPress is behind this, and then LifterLMS as a plugin or suite of tools that you use to extend your website to not just be for publishing posts and pages and creating a brochure website to actually be a web application or a WordPress based learning management system. So WordPress is behind it, and then we're also behind adapting with this new system to be compatible and also give you more power. And then why are they doing this? It's going to make it easier to build websites. I always joke like if you're in tech for a while, you hear this this concept called the WYSIWYG editor. What you see is what you get, which is, when we write a blog post or content for a page on our website in the back end of WordPress, what you see back there is not actually what you get. It's not necessarily a clear representation of what happens on the front end of the website. This is going to make that process closer to reality. Of what you see is going to be a lot closer to what you get. And the experience is designed to make make it easier for non-technical people both to build what they want with all these neat features and allow plugins and themes to add more options to the process. And I think the success we see in the WordPress page building community with tools like Beaver Builder, Elementor, the Divi Builder, it's clear that that's what people want. They want it to be easier to see what it is they're building as they build it, and also have the ability to customize the layouts to whatever they're imagining in their head without having to be a web developer or know how to write code. So that's why this is coming. And for LifterLMS specifically, these building blocks of what makes up a course, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, you can start customizing the layout of each course to whatever you want to do. If you want to use certain pieces or reorder how it works out of the box, you can do that. And we'll get into that'll make more sense when we do the live demo in a little bit. So where is it? Like, where is Gutenberg? It's the new page and post editor, and you'll see it in the LifterLMS editor areas, like on the course. In the back end of WordPress, when you go to the course page, you're going to see it, and we'll show you what that looks like in just a second. So when is it happening? This is the $1 million question. The reason this webinar is today is because a little bit ago, it was actually scheduled, WordPress 5.0 was scheduled to roll out today. I don't believe that's happening. I'm not sure if there's been an official announcement of when it's going to roll out or not, or when it will in fact roll out. So we'll definitely keep you posted when.
No official release date as of this morning.
There is not one. Yeah.
Not that I've been able to locate.
Yeah. So it's we'll find out, and that's okay. Sometimes in software, there's a balance between shipping and getting things rolled out, but also making sure it's in good condition to roll out, especially an update of this magnitude that's going to affect 30% of the internet or whatever the WordPress share is.
We're probably looking at a mid to late January release, though. That's the kind of the estimated timeline that has been thrown around. That's not official, but that's what I've been finding in Slack and so on. So
yeah, so it's coming, and it's important to get ready for it. because it is a big change. And to get ready for any change, the best tools you have is to educate yourself, which is the function of this webinar, to get you up to speed. So how does it work? We're going to take a look. I'm going to start the screen share in just a moment. And what if you don't, this is just a what if question. What if you don't, if you just kind of sit back and wait for it to roll out? In this case, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I think the best thing would be to educate yourself in advance of the rollout. You can already start using Gutenberg on your website now, which for me, the first time I used Gutenberg, I just used it to make a paste in a page, some content for a web page, and I found it really easy and actually fun to use. So we'll get into that in a minute, but definitely this is one of those things where it's important to start playing with it soon, just so you're ready. So I'm gonna,
if I could, Chris, I would also just emphasize that there are a lot of plugins. We cannot guarantee that installing Gutenberg isn't going to mess up a plugin that we're not aware of. Staging sites are really important. It's extremely easy to have a staging site nowadays. If your host doesn't provide you one, you might want to consider moving to a host that does provide you one. And always test and staging first. Please don't submit support tickets that said, Chris said to install Gutenberg, I did, and now everything is on fire. Please use staging first, please.
Yeah. Thank you for the public service announcement, Thomas. And it's also like, this is going to be a process more than an event. So as Gutenberg rolls out, as Lifter adds more and more features related to it, it's just going to evolve over time. So I would just look at it as like a process, and to, just engage with it. And if you have feedback on it or how it's working and what you need, to communicate about that. So I'm going to share the site over here, and I'm going to, and then keep the questions coming. I can see some questions starting to come into the Q&A box. So keep them coming. So this is just a basic LifterLMS sample site, nothing fancy here, just to kind of demo the basics of Gutenberg. So I'm going to go into the back end here. And you can see this area here looks different. And before I really get into that, I just want to, before we get into Lifterland, let's just add a page and look at it without talking about WordPress LMS. Just get it really simple here. So this is the new editor. It's not the WYSIWYG area that we were used to seeing. So it's assuming, WordPress was originally set up as a blogging platform. So the little prompt here is to start with the title of the blog post, and you either just start writing content, but really the magic starts happening up here in the plus button there. So there's this concept of blocks where we can start adding blocks to our content here. We can, add an image. So this starts looking different than what we're used to doing. We can add another paragraph area down here. We can add, a gallery of images. There's this common blocks area where you can have headings, audios, quotes, lists. These are the bullet points. I'm honestly not sure what cover is, file, video. There's formatting stuff where we can insert code. We can add the classic editor that we're used to. We can do custom HTML, pull quotes, tables, verses. So there's a bunch of stuff. We can even bring in our widgets that exist into this layout. And somewhere in there, we can introduce columns. Look at all these embeds in here. You can embed stuff from Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, WordPress.com, SoundCloud, Spotify, Flickr, Vimeo, Animoto. we just did a podcast interview with the CEO of this company. So just if you're not subscribed to the LMS Cast podcast, we'll put a link in the chat. Check that out. It was a really great interview, but small tangent there. Cloud Up, I'm not sure what that is. College Humor, Daily Motion, Funny or Die, Hulu, Imgur, Issue, Kickstarter, Meetup.com, Mixcloud, PhotoBucket, PollDaddy, Reddit, Reverb Nation, Screencast, Scribd, SlideShare, SmugMug, Speaker Deck, TED, Tumblr, VideoPress, WordPress TV. Wow, that's a lot of neat embed stuff. If you're wanting to make training content for your course that is multimedia, I mean, think about all the options that this, is trying to make easier for you to get inside your content. This area over here, the document that you see over here, this is what we were used to kind of seeing on the side and below in the regular WordPress that we're used to, like the featured image area. What do you want the permalink to be? Do you want to allow comments? The page attributes. These are all things we're kind of used to seeing in the technical terms. I believe they're called meta boxes. And then some of these things have their own settings. So if we, this is a lifter setting, but we'll get into some of the settings on more of the lifter stuff.
Paragraphs have a lot of settings that you can demo.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So here's a paragraph. There we go. And then the block. So you can see over here, we can do a background color on this block. We can change the text color. Excuse me while I take my eye protection off. There we go. Now I can see. You can do drop caps. That thing where the first letter is big, kind of an old school typography thing. You can change font sizes. If you've worked with page builders like Beaver Builder, Elementor, Divi Builder, this is going to look kind of familiar as like kind of a basic page builder. But the idea here is you have these blocks and then you have these settings that go with these individual blocks. And Lifter over here also has a lot of options. If you open up this side thing here, let's see, you could like switch to like the code editor or whatever. There's just different options around that. So that's kind of just the basics. If you go, let me just get back out of here. If we go to your WordPress dashboard right now, this is what Thomas was talking about. Try this in staging. This is where this big giant pop-up on your home screen of WordPress is like at 4.9, whatever, wherever we're at. This is allowing you to try Gutenberg as a plugin and just test it out in staging. So you can start, I would definitely recommend doing that in your staging environment and just getting ready for it. So that's how you can test it out before it actually comes. So let's take a look at courses. I've got this yoga course over here that we were looking at on the front end. I'm going to switch it back to the visual editor. And I hid the sidebar, the WordPress sidebar over here. That's somewhere in the settings over here. It's called full screen mode. So these are things just to play around with. I think once you click on, my experience, at least as a WordPress user who's been doing it for a while, is that once I kind of clicked around, it was pretty intuitive. It is new though. So there is a learning curve, and I recommend you playing around with it. So let's just as a reminder here, let's look on the front end. This is the regular course with, we've got our access plans, the course information here, the course description. The syllabus is down below. And if we look at that back here, you can see like here's our title. There's all the, over here on the side, the LifterLMS featured image for the course uses a standard WordPress featured image thing. So you can see that right there. We can launch the course builder right here and jump on into our familiar, LifterLMS course building experience right here. And then we can quickly jump back. Save the changes there. We can jump back to the WordPress page for the course, which has all the settings, and in Gutenberg land, all these blocks that we can start building. So let me draw your attention over here. You can see now, if you want to build a custom layout for your course, we've got these pieces that you can put in there. So I'll build a new course from scratch, and we can kind of look at that. But this is like where this whole block building concept starts. There's different pieces or blocks that make up a course in LifterLMS. We've got titles, course description, course information, access plans, progress bar, continue button. You see all these blocks. These are what these look like over here. And then when we click on them, you can see over here we have a lot of settings that we can work with. So we could make the course information. We can change the title heading. We can add our estimated completion time. We can hide certain elements if we don't want them to display, like the course categories, for example, we're displaying there, and so on. And then, for example, there's some other really cool features, like right here, this is the course syllabus. I know some people are very protective of their syllabus. They don't really want that. Why is it doing that? Stop that. There we go. They don't really want
all the links are live. So it's a bug. We're not live yet, but yeah, it's showing the exact same thing you show on the front end. I need to modify it a little bit so the links are like open in a new tab.
Gotcha.
You can like click through. It's all live code. So that's
so what you're
clicking on a link.
That's what it is. Thank you. So if you wanted, let's say, your syllabus to only be visible to enrolled students, this is a really cool Lifter feature where you're only going to be able to see this syllabus on the course homepage to enrolled users. And it could be enrolled users in this course, any course, in any of the selected courses or memberships, where we could start, getting really fancy with our visibility rules. So that's pretty cool. For if you have like more advanced, like kind of membership restriction access rules that you want to set up on visibility, that's there. So that's super cool. Let's go build a course from scratch so you can kind of see what that's like. Just kind of starting fresh. So if we add a new course, we'll just do a business course here. And then you can see we've got some of the stuff is here. We've got the basic layout here, but some people, they may want the progress thing like way up high. Let's see, can I move that now? I was moving it earlier.
You can't go above the title, but you can go above that first paragraph.
Oh, right in here?
Yeah, I don't know why it's not working though. Try
oh, there
clicking
it is.
arrow. Oh yeah, there you go.
There it is. Yeah. So that's it. I think I actually just moved the access plans, which we haven't created yet. But Yeah, so this gets into custom layout. Like you may have a different idea of than the stock lifter layout of like what order you want to present certain things.
You can
So
also remove any of it too. That's one of our most frequent feature requests, is how to remove things. Like people don't want to display course information at all, for example. You can just hit the little trash button and get rid of the element you don't want.
do you want to mention what add to reusable blocks means, Thomas? I'm just looking at the interface here.
Yeah, I actually haven't played with it at all. That's not a Lifter LMS feature. That's just part of Gutenberg. But I believe if you like customize a block, I don't know, let's say you have like an introductory paragraph that you want on all your blog posts, or I believe maybe like a common use case might be like the content upsell, or is that what they call content upgrade or something like that in your blog posts. So maybe you have a block where, you know, you have a download link or an opt-in to an email list, or I don't know, something like that. I don't think that really makes sense with something like access plans,
Yeah.
because they're not that customizable and they're pretty much already reusable, you know what I mean? But something that you might highly customize, you can, we'll be familiar with that from page builders, Beaver Builder, Elementor, things like that. They have, I forget what they call them in those off the top of my head. They're all
like global rows or something.
Yeah, like a global
Yeah.
row or something like that. I believe it's something very similar to that. I personally haven't actually created a reusable block yet. It's not relevant for what I've been working on, but I don't know. You can experiment with it right now. I'm sure it'll work if you want to dig into
Yeah.
it. So sorry, I know I should be an authority on this, but there's so much content in this release, and I'm like kind of hyper focused on building blocks for Lifter LMS and making sure all the Lifter LMS stuff works. That's like an area that I'm just like, I don't need to worry about that right now, and I'll figure it out when I need to.
Yeah, that's great. Progress bar, you know, you may only want to show that to enrolled people. That kind of makes sense. Like to put it, I mean, people can see a 0 progress bar, or you could just hide it all together and simplify the layout. So some of the stuff in Lifter is now over here. And some of it, these meta boxes are down here. Like, so for example, no access plans are found here. So we can create a new one-time payment. $1,000 expires after 1 year. Publish that. And you can see we're, you know, starting to build our course here. We don't have a lot of content in it, but so that's there. And now here in the, you know, the Gutenberg editor, we can see what's going on. We can launch the course builder and start really building out, you know, our syllabus, and, you know, start editing everything. And you'll see once we get back, in the WordPress editor of the course, you know, our syllabus is starting to populate down there. So is there anything else there? You're going to see some Lifter settings up in here, this little guy up here. But that's kind of a quick overview of what's coming in Gutenberg by itself and what that means to Lifter. So I'd love to get questions from everybody, and we'll start answering that. And if anybody wants to talk live, feel free to raise your hand.
Chris, we've got a bunch of text questions that have come in. Do you want to take those first?
Sure. Q&A or chat?
In the Q&A. I think there's a couple in chat too, but let's do the
Yeah. So Robert says, I will still He's going to stick around to the end, but he's wondering if anything that is working now on my site is going to still work when Gutenberg starts. I think that's just that question of you should be testing it in your staging environment. And it depends on what you have for plugins and theme. So you really need to be testing it. But the goal, nobody's goal is to break your website or make things stop working. But it is really important during this major transition to be involved and actively testing your site in a staging environment.
So I think there's been a tremendous amount of fear mongering going around with this release.
Yeah.
Nobody's website is going to explode.
Yeah.
That said, with any major change, like I said in that little public service announcement earlier, like always test your stuff. As a website owner, it is your responsibility to ensure your stuff works. And that's, you know, use best practices, test and staging first, make sure everything works. If you have an e-commerce site, make sure your checkout doesn't break, so on and so forth. If you have a LifterLMS website, make sure your checkout doesn't break. But in general, not a lot is actually changing. You know, the big effect on most plugins and themes will be the way meta boxes work. And the Gutenberg core team has done an incredible job making sure that meta boxes just continue to work after Gutenberg is updated. Really, it's just a user experience change. You as a course creator, a content creator, a blogger, whatever, are going to have a different experience of creating your content. But if you're, you know, if you're relatively technically savvy, and you probably are since you own a website, or you're managing a website or something like that, it's going to be a transition. But you know, you're going to get it. It's pretty intuitive. So yeah, I mean, in general, things are going to continue working, but that is such a complicated question. You know, like as somebody who does loads of support every day, I can't just say, yes, you're going to be fine. Because if I say that, then I might go on record making a huge, gross oversimplification of the question. So test your things, and you know, when you see problems, in general, like we're part of a community here, us at LifterLMS, you as members of the WordPress community using WordPress websites, and it's huge. You know what I mean? There's hundreds and thousands of plugins and themes, and everything needs to work together flawlessly, and that's really hard to do. So the best thing you could do, honestly, is install it in staging and test things out. And when you see issues, contact the developers of those plugins. If it's a LifterLMS issue, contact us. You know, if it's your theme, contact your theme developers. And like everybody wants you to continue using their plugins and themes, so they're gonna be working on this. And you know, I mean, I've been working with a lot of other plugins, and in general, I don't see any problems with Gutenberg, any major problems. That said, I'm working with, you know, the advanced betas and things like that. So I am seeing minor issues here and there, but everybody's working really hard to clean all that stuff up. So you're probably going to be okay. I've seen a lot of people saying like, oh, everything's going to explode and Gutenberg's going to break the internet and things like that. And that's just not a reality. You know, it's just not that scary. And I think in general, like this matters a lot to insiders like us that are like working on WordPress stuff. But I think most people are going to update. They're going to see Gutenberg and they're going to be like, oh, it changed. Okay. And carry on. So I don't know. Don't be scared.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we've been in just dealing with change is an issue. So this is a moment where you have to deal with change, and how you deal with change is important. And the way we look at it at LifterLMS is our philosophy is, if we want to predict a future, we're just going to help create it. So this is one of the great things about working with Thomas. He's an amazing developer. Even though Gutenberg documentation is light, as Thomas likes to say, the code is the documentation. So we're just moving ahead, making things work, you know, just kind of forging ahead. There's no reason to be scared. Just follow best practices when you, just like any other update. And I think as a recommendation, I've noticed in my WordPress journey, I'm not a developer. I'm what you would consider a WordPress power user. I noticed that over time, as you get better and better at WordPress, you use less and less plugins, even if you're not a developer. So this might be a good time to just take a more minimalist approach to plugins. If you're not using something, get rid of it. If it hasn't been updated in 2 years, you might want to question if that's critical for your business or not. So that's just some general advice right there. So the next question is, how is LifterLMS, Gutenberg, and page builders going to work together? I would recommend asking Elementor, Beaver Builder, and Divi that question. In some ways, this Gutenberg, like we're looking at with Lifter, it is a page builder. So this is like it's giving the power of page builders in a way, like to create a custom layout and do like these like kind of module or block based building to everybody. That being said, it's different from and it's not as evolved as a page builder as, you know, a Beaver Builder, or Elementor, or a Divi. So I know Elementor, I saw, had a video about how they are going to be integrating with Gutenberg. But my understanding from Matt Mullenweg is that the leader behind WordPress, or the founder, is that his goal with page builders and Gutenberg is that they share a common, they basically build on top of Gutenberg through a common API. So that's where he's hoping it'll go, but I can't really speak for the page builders. The page builders and Lifter right now, people are already doing amazing things with them. Just using, you know, the page builder with Lifter. Do you have any other comments on that, Tom?
Yeah, and I think essentially Gutenberg replaces the editor, page builders replace the editor. If you're already using a page builder, you go to your edit course screen, your edit post screen, whatever, and then you open up your page builder, and that's how you create your content instead of just typing into a little WYSIWYG box. My experience has been is that is going to continue working with the page builders. There's not really a question of LifterLMS in that. So I mean, if you're already using LifterLMS with a page builder, you can continue using LifterLMS with a page builder, and Gutenberg probably doesn't matter to you. In you know, the most simplified version of that question. So, but again, you know, like Chris said, you know, reach out to the page builders and see, you know, what their thoughts and concerns and recommendations on that kind of stuff are. So.
Thank you for the question. So another question is, have we tested it with WP Fusion?
I talked to Jack this morning. I'm going to cut you off, Chris.
Yeah.
This is, again, another question where LifterLMS plus Gutenberg plus WP Fusion is not the question you should be asking. The question is WP Fusion plus Gutenberg. I talked to Jack from Very Good Plugins, the lead developer owner of WP Fusion, this morning. He said that they're ready to go with Gutenberg, which means you're ready to go with Gutenberg and LifterLMS and WP Fusion. But again, if you're seeing specific issues there, you're going to want to reach out to WP Fusion and ask them about it.
Awesome. And if you're a developer, like if you're building products that work with Lifter, that do other things as well, come join the LifterLMS Slack community. We'll put a link down below on where to join that. Jack from WP Fusion has been over there having conversations with us. It's a great place to be if you're a developer in this industry. So Bill is asking, so do we have to update all our plugins? That's kind of a general question.
Yes.
As a general rule, yeah. Like if you go through an update process, there's WordPress, there's plugins, there's themes. So that's it. And, you know, you always want to like test things in a staging environment just to make sure that everything updates well. But especially in a major release like this, like WordPress 5.0, I would be looking to pretty much take the opportunity to back everything up, test everything in staging, and then to update everything across the board if everything goes, you know, according to plan. Do you have any other words of wisdom there, Thomas?
No, yeah. I mean, I think there is maybe a tendency still to not update things for fear of things breaking. But I think the more you adhere to that rule, the more complicated an update process is. If you update things weekly and are always testing and staging, updating things becomes much less scary because it's much more incremental. But you know, if you haven't updated LifterLMS since 2.5, you're now like going on 2 years worth of missed updates and changes and things like that, you know. So the process becomes more overwhelming and more complicated and more difficult. So I think just doing incremental updates, keeping things up to date as closely as possible, and that really comes down to having good testing practices. You know, I think we've done a webinar on. Have we done a webinar on staging sites?
No, but we have a really
couple,
great piece of documentation, a guide. Yeah. We'll put a link in the chat to that.
If it's not clear, I'm a huge advocate on good testing practices. So I've done a couple of WordCamp talks on testing. You can probably find those on wordcamp.tv, or sorry, WordPress.tv. Yeah, and we've got some documentation and things like that. But it's just if you have a good testing practices, the question of updating your plugins isn't really a question. You know, there's lots of great services. Our buddy at Staging Pilot makes it so you can actually kind of automate all this by running automated tests on checkout and LifterLMS stuff like enrollment and LifterLMS checkout, WooCommerce checkout. And then you can kind of ensure that updating your stuff doesn't break, and you can automate that, or you can just do it manually. We do it manually at lifterlms.com. Anyway, it's just, there's a lot of cool things. Kathy just dropped some links that you can check out about how to stage, but keep your stuff updated, your themes, your plugins, your WordPress core.
And on this topic of updates, that webinar that Thomas mentioned with Nathan Tyler from Staging Pilot, we did a training with him. We'll put a link in the chat. Go watch that. Check that out. That's a good tool. And just another note is, I was talking with some hosting companies at various WordCamps and things. I think it's important that you know if your web host is going to automatically update WordPress for you, or if you need to do that. Like, you should know, you should educate yourself by contacting your hosting company, just so you know, is Gutenberg or 5.0 just going to show up one day, or do you have the option to like sit back, wait a little bit, and then update when ready? But I think you should know that answer and not be surprised by which way it goes. The next question is, it's about page builders. You can style in your page builder and paste the shortcode in the block. Jonathan's question is, will LifterLMS see the shortcode like Gravity Form shortcode inside an Elementor shortcode, and let the LifterLMS Gravity Form add-on see the form and allow the lesson to not complete until filled out?
I have no idea.
We might have to take that one live.
No, I understand the question.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer to that because that's like 3 levels deep. Theoretically, it should work, but that's really an Elementor question. It really doesn't have much to do with Gutenberg, I don't think. So the way the LifterLMS, I mean, the way LifterLMS Gravity Forms works is it looks through the content of your post to determine if you have that shortcode in there.
If a form is present.
Yeah, if a form is present. And the way Elementor, Beaver Builder, Divi, et cetera work is that they actually save all this content into, technically it doesn't always get saved directly to your database, but the method we use does pick it up inside Elementor. The method we use does pick it up inside Gutenberg. I believe it should work. If I'm talking out of turn, I haven't actually physically run this test. So if it's not working, could you lodge a support ticket and I'll take a look at it, and we'll try to figure out like what's going on there, but it should work theoretically.
Thanks for the question, John.
Current editor, but not in Gutenberg. Well, okay, I'll take a look at it. I'll take a look. So you're not talking about using it with Elementor. You're talking about using it with Gutenberg. Yeah, okay, I'll take a look at it then. Maybe don't worry about a support ticket. I'll throw it in GitHub right now, and I'll make sure to take a look at that in the next couple of weeks before we get this released.
Nasim asks, in the course editor, where is the sidebar? So in the demo I was doing, let me share my screen here. In this case, we're using the Launchpad theme. So this has a, I could select a right sidebar layout, and then I would go over to Appearance, widgets, and you can see over here in LifterLMS world, we have these sidebar widgets, course progress, course syllabus, which we have put inside of the course sidebar if it is there, or the lesson sidebar if it is not, if it is there. So it's kind of a theme level question. So, but the reason you can't see the sidebar in this image is because in this current form, the sidebar is managed separately through the theme and the widgets. I hope that makes sense. Peter asks, is LifterLMS giving support for Gutenberg for now until the official release? You want to take that one, Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, so we've got a plugin called LifterLMS Blocks. I haven't released anything of it publicly. Hopefully we'll have a kind of beta version that we'll put up on our website for free in the next couple of weeks. We work with Gutenberg right now. There's a couple issues here and there with the way some of our meta boxes work, but I'm working on getting all those things resolved. But if you just search LifterLMS Blocks on Google, you can install our Gutenberg compatibility plugin right now. Hopefully before 5.0 release, that'll be rolled into the LifterLMS core. But we're working on it. What you're seeing right now is that LifterLMS Blocks plugin working with the Gutenberg plugin. And there's a couple issues here and there, but we're working on it.
Awesome.
If you do want to check it out, feedback is very much appreciated. So if this matters to you, and I believe it should, and you have a site where you can kind of install this and play around with it, please do, and then let us know what you think, what we're missing, what we're not thinking about, like Jonathan brought up, like what's not working with relation to gravity forms, that kind of stuff. We are a small team, a very, very small team with a very ambitious product. We need feedback from the community because I cannot think of everything by myself. Chris helps, but he misses things too. We miss things all the time. So if you're actively working on this kind of stuff and you see something that we haven't caught yet, please let us know.
Yeah, good points. So like I was saying, this is a process, not an event. So what you're looking at, it's likely that this release is still a couple months out, coming in January, but we're already, forging ahead. So this will continue to evolve as we go through that time period. We had a question about themes. Themes do need to also look at Gutenberg. The other day I was playing around with the Astra theme in Gutenberg, and I'd keep an eye on those guys. It's a very popular theme in the LifterLMS community, and I haven't followed it closely, but I'm sure they probably already have some content, blogs or videos about what their approach to Gutenberg is, or maybe even some demos. So I'd encourage you to install the free Astra theme and check that out. Or whatever.
Astra works fine with Gutenberg.
Yeah.
I've been kind of playing around with it. And Ocean WP. I see Bill's asking about Launchpad. Launchpad works with Gutenberg. Themes in general, the themes that are more feature rich, we'll take Divi as an example, I imagine are going to be a little bit more complicated to integrate directly with Gutenberg. But most themes that just have a couple like layout settings, like Astra has sidebar, header settings, things like that, it's going to work pretty well out of the box without much issue. But try your theme out, see what happens, and I think you'll be good.
Yeah. And just a general note about like people are saying about Gutenberg, how that's going to affect themes. If you look at what's happened with page builders and themes, the Beaver Builder, the Elementor, the Divi Builder and stuff, the function, as page builders have evolved, the requirements of the theme have gotten less and less. So that's one of the reasons why I think Astra is so popular. It's kind of a minimal theme focused on speed with some key integrations, like its integration with Lifter. And if you want fancy layouts, you use the page builder to do that. But you could also use Astra and without a page builder and Gutenberg in the future to build, your custom layouts and create columns and things of that nature. I'm just going to scan the chat because some of you have been typing in there, not the Q&A. Jonathan is recommending local by flywheel for testing.
I'll just throw out there, WP Engine has staging, SiteGround has staging, GoDaddy's managed WordPress has staging. Kinsta has staging. Take your pick. DreamHost is managed WordPress has staging. So a lot of good hosts have staging now.
If your business is built on top of WordPress, like it's not just a brochure site, it's a web application, like an online school or training platform, you should definitely have a staging environment.
And if you don't, sorry, I
Yeah.
love staging, right? If you don't have a host that does have staging, but you have access to a cPanel or to a file manager of some kind, you can also set up a staging site there really easily. There's Kathy posted it before, but there's our staging documentation shows you how to do that if your host doesn't have a one-click staging site. It's pretty easy.
So Michelle asks, does the lesson page do the same as the course page? Not yet. The lesson has a couple of elements in it. It's not as complicated as the, or it doesn't have as many options as the course page.
Let me get really excited for a second. So one of the things that's so cool about this is that it really adds a tremendous amount of customization with very, very low overhead. So right now, we have a plugin that adds a bunch of stuff before and after content. So an example of that is like we looked at the course page. There's the syllabus, the pricing table, course information like categories, tags, etc. We have to make some general assumptions that most people are going to want that, but not everybody wants that. We're wrong. Maybe 40% of the time, that default layout doesn't matter or isn't right for most people. If you look at a lesson, there's like a back to course button link at the top of the page. There's mark complete buttons or the take quiz buttons. There's some navigation stuff at the bottom. Again, we throw all that stuff in and we do it with code because that's the easiest and lightest way to do it. If we build an option for everything, there's a lot of database calls that need to be made. Database calls slow your website down. But Gutenberg gives us the opportunity to, and if you want to use a page builder, you need to remove all that stuff and put it all back in yourself. So with Gutenberg, we can now create our default template, which you saw when Chris loaded up that new course. And then you can modify that to your heart's content. You can delete whatever you don't want and you can move it around. You can modify the visibility. So what you'll be seeing with LifterLMS, and this is a preview, this isn't 100% finished yet, but on the lesson pages, you'll still be able to use Gutenberg, and you'll just have a different set of blocks in your default template. With that link at the top, the navigation on the bottom, the mark complete at the bottom, and you can kind of move stuff around, you can modify it to whatever you want. So right now you can do all that, but you need a couple extra plugins to do it. And if you're already using those couple other plugins, maybe you don't care and maybe this isn't exciting to you, but it is exciting to me. And it's also exciting because like Chris said, there's so many plugins and I see so many websites and I get into sites where there's 60 plugins installed, essentially because we're trying to solve problems that we need to solve. People want, you need to be able to customize your site that way. So we can kind of reduce the number of plugins we need, add customization without adding thousands of extra options. Well, thousands is an exaggeration, but we're probably looking at a dozen or so extra options in order to create that customizable. Plus, it's all natively drag and drop. For LifterLMS to provide you all that customization without another plugin, we need to build a page builder. And we're not going to build a page builder into LifterLMS. So we kind of just got one for free. And it doesn't have all of the features of Beaver Builder or Elementor or Divi. But this is version 1, So anyway, yeah, you're going to be able to customize your lessons and so on and so forth. And I'm really excited about it because I think it's going to make everybody's life a lot easier out of the box, And as you level up, maybe you need to go to a page builder anyway. But for starters, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. So you can focus on the change or just focus on the opportunity here. I mean, it is really exciting what's coming here. Derek asks, he says, I've got Gutenberg activated on my staging site, but it's not showing. What to change?
So with the Gutenberg plugin, it gives you the option to use the classic editor or enable Gutenberg on a post by post basis or a course by course basis. You may have just accidentally chosen to use the classic editor. Off the top of my head, I don't exactly remember how it works, but when you look at add new, there's like a little drop down next to it. So if you're on like the courses list, it says add new, there's a little drop down. If you're already in a post and it's not showing Gutenberg, but it's just showing the classic editor, I'm not entirely positive.
He found it. I saw another message. You can switch back and forth.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Jonathan says that he's tested LifterLMS and Gutenberg and Elementor with no real problems. That's awesome. Let's see. Jonathan's doing a happy dance.
I see somebody raise their hand.
We'll get to that in a second. We're almost through the chat questions. Jonathan says a great and strong team and everything works well together. Awesome. Thank you. So if you have more questions coming in, I can see some more in the Q&A box, which we'll get to, but we've got somebody with a hand up. So we're going to go there. If you would like to talk live, raise your hand. If you're over in Facebook, we're going to be checking the comments over there. So if you have questions over there, drop a question or go ahead and click on the link above or below this video and you can get to right inside of this live Zoom webinar if you're watching it live. So I'm going to bring you up, Jonathan. What's up, Jonathan?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
So about the Gutenberg and Elementor, one thing that I've really enjoyed with it is start your page with Gutenberg and you can get actually 85% of the way there. And if there's some like cool feature that Elementor has, just build it in a section template and then you can pull it in just that one section right there. And then, so the added features that you guys are adding with these widgets and stuff like that, because it's kind of a pain inside Elementor to pull in your short codes and drop them where you want them and get exactly the style you want because you're dependent on the short code of LifterLMS. But this way, you can kind of style it exactly how you want and then pull in the page builder aspects as you see fit. So it kind of makes things a little, you get the best of both worlds. So that's what I've noticed, and it actually really works. So,
well, somebody should make a course on
that. We're working on it. The problem is it changes too fast. You know,
that's the problem with the challenge with technology courses is it changes a lot. I did notice, by the way, there's a website called WP101. It's a site by Sean Hesketh that has general WordPress training. It's actually powered by LifterLMS. They have there's a guy, Joe Casabona, who has a full course with Zach Gordon, I believe, on Gutenberg. So if you really want to take a deep dive, that's a good place to go. Putting that out there.
And it's not scary. Like there's too much like Thomas said, fear mongering out there. It's not going to break your site. I've had nothing break. I've had some stuff not work, but you just have to look into it, and it's usually not that big a deal. If you just have to understand what the plugins are actually doing. So,
yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that, Jonathan. Does anybody else want to raise your hand and chat live? Any questions? And while I'm waiting see if we have any more hands, Bill asks, when do you guys sleep? And I would say the reality is we actually sleep pretty well. So if you're in this world, it's easy. The internet is always on or whatever. So it's important to build, strong habits and, separation and boundaries and stuff. Thomas and I have been working remotely on the internet with a global business for a long time. So we've kind of figured out that piece. Otherwise you burn out and go down in a blaze of glory. And that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. I think there's always this idea that I need to get it done right now. And it's taken me, I mean, I still struggle. Everybody's always struggling all the time, but I've realized that, whatever emergency issue, there's always 3,000 or 4,000 emergency issues going on. And if I try to tackle them all right now with no sleep, there's only going to be more issues. And I've learned that when I try to fix issues really quickly, I end up creating new issues. And then there's more issues. And when I try to work on fixing issues when I'm exhausted, I create even more new issues. So I just try to remember that if I want to write the best code and the best support responses possible, you need to be well rested. So I don't know. Something I try to remember is that I'm not in this for just today. This is my job. This is my career. This is the next 20 years of my life, maybe. So there's always going to be more issues, and I don't know, I try to reduce the number of new issues I cause by sleeping well. So I don't know.
Excellent point. And I just checked the Facebook comments for the people watching over there. We've got a clap from Regava. Thank you for the clap. And if you're watching this later on Facebook, still feel free to drop a comment. We'll be checking in on it. And over there, if I'm going to just say a few final things. If nobody else has any more questions, if you do, raise your hand, talk, and we'll chat live.
You know, Jonathan, Chris, if I could, Jonathan just said something about shortcodes, and yeah. I won't do my little shortcode rant, but I don't like shortcodes. And if you're a huge fan of shortcodes, it's because shortcodes solve a problem that WordPress hasn't, like WordPress as a whole, and therefore plugins and themes haven't really been able to figure out how to solve. And Gutenberg is a step in that direction. If you think about a block as a replacement for a shortcode, and we've got dozens of shortcodes, and there are 50 or so other shortcodes that I get emails about every day. That's like, why isn't there a shortcode for this? Why isn't there a shortcode for that? There's so many things that there could be a shortcode for. Shortcode, sorry. So we're going to be replacing a lot of shortcodes with blocks, and a lot of the things that we're talking about or that we could do, we're going to be able to do with blocks, and this layout customization and things like that. And it's really cool because you're not using a system. We're not using a system like WordPress because we want to write code. I want to write code, and developers want to write code, but shortcodes are like a weird form of code. I think all this makes kind of like a visual version of that. It's really cool. So, and I think it makes a lot more sense to have these. It just bums me out when, I mean, like Jonathan just said, like it's really hard to like put shortcodes into modules and design your layout and all that stuff. But with blocks, I think in blocks and widgets and what page builders have done with their modules or whatever they call them, is what we want. It's a visual solution. So I don't know. I think that's gonna be really cool, and that's what we're working towards. And I'm excited for the day where we can kind of forget about shortcodes altogether. So
onwards.
Yeah.
So Robert asks, when might I watch this webinar again? So we'll put a link in the chat. There's a webinars replay page. It won't be up instantly after this call, but it will be there live forever for you to go back and watch. You can also see it in the LifterLMS Facebook group where we've streamed it live, and it will show up as a replay. We'll also put it on YouTube. So there'll be a lot of different places you can find it. So check all that out. And just kind of in closing, one of the things that makes LifterLMS great is the community. It's the thing that makes WordPress great and makes it so powerful and extendable. It makes it what it is. So if you'd like to get more involved in the LifterLMS community, come join the Facebook group, come join the Slack channel. And we have a product called LifterLMS Office Hours Mastermind. That's part of the Infinity bundle, or you can get it by itself. Most people who decide to get it do get it via the Infinity bundle, but that's where we do weekly calls. If you like this kind of call, you would probably like the weekly LifterLMS Office Hours Mastermind. And that's where we do some live support, but mostly get into strategy, technical issues of like what should I use for, product recommendations in terms of hosting. People share their experience. It's not just me being a guru. There's a lot of wisdom in the community. Jonathan, who's on this call, is a regular in there. Lots of great discussions. I'm sure we'll be having more discussions around Gutenberg and just optimizing for the transition and also taking advantage of the new tools. So that's a great way to connect if you want to just be more involved in the LifterLMS community. If you have any further questions about any of this, you can send us an email at team@lifterlms.com. That's team@lifterlms.com. I'd like to announce the winner of our $99 giveaway. So that is, so you can use it on one of the add-ons, or if you want something more expensive than $99, we'll set you up with a coupon so that you can use it against something else. If you already have something from Lifter, we can apply that value and just extend your license out into the future with more time. So Derek Southern, congratulations. you won the $99 LifterLMS giveaway. So congratulations to Derek. Get in touch with us at team@lifterlms.com and we'll hook you up with your winnings. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and having a conversation here around Gutenberg. As things become more, as they evolve and become more permanent, we'll help get the word out of like the new release date for Gutenberg that we're hearing from Automatic and the WordPress core team. Thomas, thanks for coming on the show or the webinar. It's always fun. Kathy, thanks for helping keep the wheels on the bus. And thank you all for coming and joining us on this call.